السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين يبايعونك إنما يبايعون الله يد الله فوق أيديهم صدق رسول الله صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم الأمين سيدي ومرشدي قبلہ پیر سید خالد علی قادری الطاہری دامت فیوزاتکم صاحبزادگان brothers, sisters, elders, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, all praises for Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala that He's blessed us after a long time to gather together in the presence of Qibla Peer Sahib. There's a commentary of a hadith which I've brought to share with you. But before I do that, I want to explain probably the greatest lesson. You all hear the story of Karbala and the martyrdom that took place at Karbala. But what I want to explain to you, as Qibla Peer Sahib mentioned in their few words of wisdom, that we are a people who are connected with the Aulia Allah. And it's in that connection that the success in this life and in the next life lies, in that connection. What I want to mention or briefly explain before I mention the hadith is probably the greatest lesson for us all in the tragedy that took place on the plains of Karbala. And just before I mention that lesson, as an introduction, some introductory words so that you can appreciate that lesson. A lot of people, you hear them say these things, that you know, this concept of Peeri and Mureedi, this concept of doing bay'ah with the Shaykh. This is something which is a bid'ah in the deen. It's an innovation in the deen. It never existed in the early ages. You hear people making such claims. However, the truth is that the origins of this concept lie in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Sahaba-i-Kiram, the companions of the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, did bay'ah at the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They performed bay'ah with the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in order to reap the spiritual power and blessings of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. In the Quran, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala mentions this word and this concept. And Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ, that verily those people who have done bay'ah with you, O Messenger of Allah, let everyone be aware, إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهَ, that indeed they have done bay'ah to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And now, Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. Now the hand and the power of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is on their hand. The Sahaba-i-Kiram performed bay'ah with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala revealed a verse in the Quran that now, due to this bay'ah of the Sahaba-i-Kiram with their Shaykh, with their murshid, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now the power of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, the divine power, the spiritual power of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala will be with these people. And the truth is that once the Sahaba Kiram had done bay'ah with the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, their obedience and the state of their obedience to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who was their murshid. The Quran uses the word muzakki for the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that he is the one who spiritually pures his companions. The companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, their murshid, their murabbi, their muzakki, their muallim, their spiritual guide was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is where the concept of Peeri Mureedi began. In the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as mentioned in the Quran. They were the Mureeds of the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. They were his disciples. And when it came to the obedience, they never in their obedience differentiated between Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Their existence is different. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala's existence is that he's the God, he's the creator. And the existence of the Holy Prophet ﷺ is that he is not the God and he is the created. But when it came to obedience, there is no difference. Why? Because إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهِ. Because those people who've done bay'ah with you, Messenger, they have done bay'ah with Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now your command is the command of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Your obedience is the obedience of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Your honoring is the honoring of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. This Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala mentioned in the Holy Quran. The greatest lesson Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu left behind for the Ummah was sacrifice your wealth, sacrifice your families, sacrifice everything, sacrifice even your life if you have to for the sake of your murshid and his mission and in honor of him. Every other lesson comes underneath this lesson, that the murshid of Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, for the sake of the teaching of his murshid, gave even his life in the service of his murshid. There's a story. And throughout the ages, from that time, the concept of bay'ah has existed. And the concept of doing bay'ah with a Shaykh Kamil, spiritual guide, and then once you do bay'ah, you follow the lesson left behind by Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Be ready to sacrifice everything for to express and display your loyalty with your murshid. This is the lesson that Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala left behind. There's a hadith that's narrated in a great book of collection of ahadith, Mishkatul Masabih. I'll mention the hadith very quickly because I want to briefly mention its commentary also, because there's an interesting story written in one of the authentic commentaries of this hadith. The hadith is that a sound tradition that is narrated by a companion by the name of Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala. He said that I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, the Holy Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was with his companions, and he said to the companions, Ala unabbi'ukum bi khayri a'malikum, that, O companions, shall I not inform you of the best of actions, wa azkaha inda malikikum, and the action which is the most purest in the sight of your Malik, your Rabb, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وَأَرْفَعِهَا فِي دَرَجَاتِكُمْ, and the one which will raise your ranks the most, such an action. وَخَيْرٍ لَكُمْ مِنْ إِنْفَاقِ الذَّهَبِ وَالْوَرِقِ, and the action which is far greater than spending gold and silver in the path of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وَخَيْرٍ لَكُمْ, and an action which is far better than what? مِنْ أَنْ تَلْقَوْا أَدُوَّكُمْ فَتَضْرِبُوا أَعْنَاقَهُمْ وَيَضْرِبُوا أَعْنَاقَكُمْ. An action which is far greater than you all being on the battlefield and in a state of jihad to such an extent with your enemies that they are striking your necks and you are striking their necks. Better than all of these things. قَالُوا بَلَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. The Sahaba Kiram said, of course, Ya Rasulullah, such a great action. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, Zikrullah. The zikr of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is far better than all of these things that I mentioned. A great commentator of Hadith, Mullah Ali Qari Rahimahullah Ta'ala, in his commentary to this Hadith, he mentions a few things about zikr. He says that, understand that according to the people, the Arifin and the Arbabul Qulub, the Arifin, the Gnostics, the Islamic Muslim Gnostics, and the Arbabul Qulub, the people of the heart, the great Aulia, according to them, in this dhikr of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, there are certain khawas, certain distinctive qualities and effects, particular effects that the remembrance of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has. But the truth is, لَيْسَ الطَّرِيقِ إِلَى مَعْرِفَتِهَا إِلَّا الْوِجْدَانِ وَالذَّوْقِ. There's no way of becoming aware of these spiritual secrets that lie in zikr. The only way is al-wijdan wa dhawq. The word wijdan, in Arabic, one of its meanings is to become aware of something after undergoing an experience and then getting that knowledge. And dhawq literally means taste. Meaning what? That you can't understand this until you taste it. These khawas, these distinctive qualities and spiritual and distinctive effects of zikr, it's only through tasting them that you become aware, are able to appreciate. Then, this is what I wanted to mention and share with you. Mullah Ali Qari Rahimahullah Ta'ala says that regarding these spiritual effects of zikr, a story from amongst stories which illustrates this is the story by a great Shaykh by the name of Sayyid Ali ibn Mamyun al-Maghribi. He was a great Shaykh of the 9th, 10th century Hijri. He says that in his time, Mullah Ali Qari writing this, that in his time there was a great scholar, Shaykh al-Islam Alwan al-Hamawi al-Shafi'i al-Shazuli, great scholar. And regarding this scholar, I have read in the ijazat and asanid of many great muhaddisun and fuqaha. Their chains of narration of hadith go back to this great scholar. But this great scholar was a great scholar, teacher of his time. But he had not yet met his Shaykh al-Tariqah. And this story is about what happened when he met his Shaykh al-Tariqah. So in his time he became well known as a great mufti of his time, as a great mudarris of his time, as a great muallim of the ulum and hadith and fiqh and tafsir of his time. He met his Shaykh Ali ibn Mamyun al-Maghribi rahimahullah ta'ala. When he went to his Shaykh, realized the spiritual status of the Shaykh and done bay'ah with the Shaykh. And now whilst I'm narrating the story, I want you to keep that introduction in mind. Loyalty to your murshid regardless of all circumstances. Keep that in mind, that introduction in mind. He met his Shaykh, and he was someone known in the Muslim world at the time as a great teacher of the Islamic sciences. When he met his Shaykh, the first order the Shaykh gave to him was stop all your teaching. Stop all your teaching. No more teaching after today. He was the great mudarris of his time. People from far away used to travel just to study with him. But the first order the Shaykh gave, Kana muftiyan mudarrisan fanahahu anil kul. The Shaykh stopped him from everything, all teaching. وَأَشْغَلَهُ بِالذِّكْرِ, and said, these are wazaif I want you to read. Other than this, I don't want you to do anything. When this happened, he went back, obeyed the order of his teacher, obeyed the order of his spiritual guide, was obedient to the command of his murshid. Because when you have a murshid, his command, his obedience is the obedience of Allah Ta'ala. Stopped everything. فَطَعَنَ الْجُحَّالُ فِيهِ بِأَنَّهُ أَدَلَّ شَيْخَ الْإِسْلَامِ وَمَنَعَهُ عَنْ نَفْعِ الْأَنَامِ. The ignorant people, Mullah Ali Qari said, ignorant people started accusing this Shaykh of this scholar. Said that he has misguided our Shaykh al-Islam. Shaykh Alwan al-Hamawi, great teacher of the Islamic side, he's misguided him by preventing him from teaching and helping and educating the people. The Shaykh has misguided him. Then Shaykh Alwan al-Hamawi stopped all the teaching, everything. Just offered his prayers and his zikr, wazifa that his Shaykh gave. But every now and then would recite the Quran, do tilawah of the Quran. He went to meet his Shaykh. Shaykh said, I told you to stop everything and just read my wazifa. Why are you still sometimes reciting the Quran? فَمَنَعَهُ مِنْهُ. Said, after today you are not even allowed to recite and do tilawat of the Quran. Only my wazifa, that's it. Mullah Ali Qari says, فَقَالَ النَّاسِ إِنَّهُ زِنْدِيقٌ.
یہ سننے کو نہیں ملے گا، یہ بڑے غور سے سنیں.
فَقَالَ النَّاسِ إِنَّهُ زِنْدِيقٌ يَمْنَعُ مِنْ تِلَاوَةِ الْقُرْآنِ. The people said, what type of peer is this? He prevents his mureed from reciting the word of Allah Ta'ala. Innahu zindiq. He's not a peer. The people said this. He's not a peer. He's a heretic. Innahu zindiq.
Allahu Akbar.
يَمْنَعُ مِنْ تِلَاوَةِ الْقُرْآنِ الَّذِي هُوَ قُطْبُ الْإِيمَانِ. The people said this, that Iman is based on the words of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and this Peer is preventing his Mureed from reciting the Quran. But Mullah Ali Qari says, لَكِنْ تَابَعَهُ الْمُرِيد. The Mureed obeyed the order of his Peer. Stopped reciting the Quran and continued with only the wazir. No teaching, no reciting Quran, no any other nafal ibadah, only the wazifa of his Shaykh. That's it. And he continued this. And then Mullah Ali Qari says that the effects of that wazifa in his heart, the noor started growing in his heart. A divine light from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala started glowing inside his heart. The words are in Jallat mir'atu qalbihi. That mirror that becomes rusty. In Jallat, the mirror of the heart began to shine. Then the Mureed goes to his Peer, goes to his Murshid. And the Murshid says, now when you go back, open the Quran and start reading. فَلَمَّا فَتَحَ الْمُصْحَفَ فُتِحَ عَلَيْهِ الْفُتُوحَاتُ الْأَزَلِيَّةُ وَالْأَبَدِيَّةُ وَظَهَرَ لَهُ كُنُوزُ الْمَعَارِفِ وَالْأَوَارِفِ الظَّاهِرِيَّةِ وَالْبَاطِنِيَّةِ. When he opened the Quran and just looked at the Quran, not only the apparent meanings of the Quran, it was as though all of the hidden treasures of the Quran were apparent to him. Things that in all his years of teaching he had never read, those meanings became apparent to him. And this Mureed runs back to his Shaykh in a state of mesmeration, in a state of excitement, shocked at what he just experienced. When he opened the Mus'haf at the order of his Shaykh, he goes back, and as soon as his Shaykh sees him, his Shaykh says, أَنَا مَا كُنْتُ أَمْنَعُكَ عَنِ الْقُرْآنِ. I never prevented you from the Quran and its recitation. وَإِنَّمَا كُنْتُ أَمْنَعُكَ عَنْ لَقْلَقَةِ اللِّسَانِ. The only thing I prevented you from was from the rattling of the tongue.
Nare Takbir, Nare Risalat, Nare Haidari, Nare Ghousia.
Innama kuntu amna'uka an laqlaqatil lisan. Just this rattling tongue of yours, that's what I stopped you from. I didn't stop you from the Quran. Now recite the Quran, and the Quran will open up to you. Even though when the Murshid tells you things which are beyond your understanding, obey them in order to reap the benefits which you can't understand. The Sahaba Kiram, Allah taught them this adab, that when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says something, it's Allah saying it. When your Murshid says something, it's Allah saying it. This is the adab of Bay'ah, the adab of Peeri and Mureedi, taught by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala himself. And what I want to end with is this verse from the poetry of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi radiyallahu ta'ala an, who for centuries his books of poetry were taught as teachings of Tassawuf for centuries. An authority in the teachings of Tassawuf. And I'll end with this. He says, Har ke piro zaate haq ra yak nadi. Har ke piro zaate haq da yak nadi. Anyone who doesn't see his peer zaate haq and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala as one. He doesn't see them as one. This authority of Tassawuf says, Nay Murido, Nay Murido, Nay Murido. He says, my fatwa is this, such a person is not a Mureed, is not a Mureed, is not a Mureed. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala give us all the ability to understand and be loyal to our murshid. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala give us all the ability that we benefit from the spiritual blessings of Hazoor Syedna Ghous radiyallahu ta'ala an wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.